Hey, I'm Tracy. I am going to do my after story that Kelly helped me with, and I'm going to read it so you can get a feel for the power of how she can beef things up. So here we go. Sometimes life throws you into situations where you can either lose it or roll with it. Situations that force you not to take yourself or life too seriously. Now, I was reminded of that recently on my return trip home to Denver. I had to take an Uber. Usually my husband picks me up. On this day he couldn't. I can still remember his very detailed and instructive cautions. See, he's a rocket scientist. Picture Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory, but a little older. I could still hear my husband saying over breakfast before I left for my trip, did you know 20% of people don't know how to change a flat? And 28% of cars are sold without a spare tire. So if you do a little math, in any random car you get into, you can have up to a 48% chance of not making it to your destination just from tire problems. Thanks, Matt. You have a good day too. So as I said, I'm now returning home, ready to tell my husband how I'd rocked it for that last audience. I mean, I didn't want to brag, but good grief, when you're married to a freaking rocket scientist, you have to take all the wins you can get. Now, honey, I know you just developed a new rocket ship that runs on some kind of combustible something or other, but I got a standing ovation and sold a box of books. So I landed in Denver, grabbed my bag, ordered my Uber, and within minutes, you gotta love technology, my driver pops up in the screen, Jabir, 14 and a half trips completed, doesn't like to talk, speaks a little English, new to our shores, likes long walks in the park, slow jazz, and scented candles. Car model, Prius. Crap, I hate getting picked up in a Prius. They're so loud, you feel like you're riding in the boxcar of a train, and they cram you in the back seat like you're in the old west of a horse carriage. This was not what I deserved after my standing ovation. Oh, and it gets worse. I could hear Jabir's car rattling before it arrived. He pulls up in a Prius, and even in the dark, it became quite clear to me that this wasn't just any Prius. This was a junker Prius. And I knew right away that this car was the living embodiment of the 48% chance of not making it. Jabir nodded for me to get in. Yeah, he doesn't like to talk. And as soon as the door closed, without waiting for me to get on my seatbelt, he rammed his foot on the gas and we were off. Thank goodness the seatbelt worked, because it had not become, because had it not, it was more of a restraining device as I bounced and shook around in the car, trying not to get sick. It was clear that when he arrived to our shores, nobody told him about the importance of wheel alignment. And as soon as we got to the highway, he says the words that you never want to hear when traveling over 80 miles per hour in a death trap. Did you hear that? Hear that noise. What noise wasn't I hearing? This thing was so loud, I lost my hearing as soon as we left the airport. It was probably the Prius death rattle, I muttered. He didn't laugh, but jerked the car to the side of the road to inspect the source of the noise that had caused the latest warning light on his dash to light up. A dash, by the way, that had been lit up like a Christmas tree since we started, with other warnings that apparently were not explained in his new driver packet. Now, if my husband was here, he would have gone into cardiac arrest, just calculating the statistics of the chances of me making it home alive. He got out, Jabir, he did. Sure enough, the front right tire was flat. Now he just stands there with traffic whizzing by with his hands on his hips, just staring at the flat tire in confusion. It became clear to me that changing a tire was not on the list of his life achievements. And that's when it started to snow. Oh, great. I can now add freezing to death to today's adventure. He pulls all my bags out of the trunk and tosses them to the side so he can rummage through the Chick-fil-A bags, empty Mountain Dew bottles, and Cosmo magazines. What? Cosmo? Anyway, I was just as happy we didn't uncover a dead body. And pleased to note that there was no way he could fit me into that trunk, especially because I would have been frozen solid by that point. Now, there are three parts you need to change a tire. You need the jack, you need the jack handle, and you need the lug wrench. He settled on two of them, the jack and the lug wrench, went over to the flat tire and just stuck it anywhere. I told him he needed to look for the notch for the jack, and he ignored me while cranking it up with the lug wrench. So you can see how this is working out. Now, I'm trying to be polite. And after I watched him struggle for a few minutes, I said, you might want to get the jack handle. It's long and skinny. He went around, found it, and in silence, I could see he decided that, yes, indeed, this was working better. He looked at me in confusion, as if hard to believe this tall white woman would know anything about changing a tire. Apparently, he was reading too much Cosmo. And then he proceeded to demonstrate the 20%ers technique of removing lug bolts, which included putting the lug wrench on so the handle was straight up in the air at 12 o'clock and then kicking it with his brown plastic imitation leather sandal, which not only did not work, but every time he kicked the wrench, it wedged itself off a little and stripped the bolt more and more until it fell off. It was clear that Jabir didn't want me telling him what to do, but I couldn't stand it anymore. So I say, you know, if you put it on parallel to the ground and stand on it like this, you'll loosen these right up. So he tried it and shook his head in silence, and apparently he preferred his bolt stripping technique to mine. Then a red Ford pickup truck pulls over to help. Now, anybody who's ever seen an episode of Law & Order or Criminal Minds or even the nightly news knows that this is the part where the serial killer pulls over to help, and you get locked in the basement for a month. So I'm standing there preparing for the worst, hoping that between me and Jabir, I run faster. But then a woman jumps out of the car and marches over. Now, you remember Melissa McCarthy's character from Bridesmaids? This woman could have been her twin. Short, plump, happy, and serious at the same time, and not just a little bit masculine. She's got this look like she lives for moments like this. You all doing all right? I'm a mechanic. Need any help? It was not a question. Now, without waiting for an answer, she hitches up those khaki pants and jumps right in. Jabir is upset because now he's got two women telling him what to do. As she muscles him out of the way, she says, I just got off classes at Big Rig Mechanic School up the road. I always stop to help people. Usually I have my impact wrench, but I don't today. I'm one of the few people in Denver who knows how to properly set the tension of a lug bolt. Now, you don't want to blow out your donut on the freeway. Now, that sounded kind of fun, but she just went to work. Now, 20% stands there speechless and calls his friend, who's also new to our shores and doesn't speak much English, to come help. He must have been parked down the street because he arrived in just a couple minutes, and the two of them are rattling off in another language, gesturing wildly. Now, I'm not understanding a word, but I know enough to figure out Jabir and his friend were 20%ers and quite upset about a female being in control. Jamie says, step back from the vehicle. Please keep yourself warm. I will handle this. I need a flashlight, please. And then she takes a closer look at 20%'s work and says, oh, honey, you didn't place this jack right under the car, and you're ruining the body of your car. I looked, and it was all rumpled where he'd placed the jack and tried to crank it up. This only got a blank stare from 20% and his support friend. She goes to get her jack from her truck. 20%'s friend motions for me to get in his car. He's going to take me home. No way. I got to see how this plays out. And I didn't totally trust him not to take me to his basement. So no, it's much safer to stand on the side of I-70 in a blizzard just to get a good story. She jacks up 20%'s car, pulls the tire off, and says, oh, honey, you've got no tread left on this tire. Now, I had never seen a tire so bare. You could see the white fiber under the rubber. Let's see. Oh, she shines the flashlight in the wheel well and says, oh, honey, you've got some major damage here. There's no way you can drive this car. You're going to need to tow it. But you're in luck. I got a tow truck at home. It's my side job. She looked at Jabir and his friend and says, you two wait here. I'll run home, get my truck, and come back to pick you up. Sweetie pie, looking at me, you get your stuff and come with me. So we jumped in her truck, and she takes me home. On the way to my place, she told me all about how she has 6 houses and bought a big rig just because she could. But she really works for the government at the highest possible security level and has codes for all the nukes. They're all hidden in shopping malls. And that she has 9 golden retriever puppies, which is just a little more energy than she planned on. She might be more comfortable with 6. So I got her card. I might take one. I get home and my husband is sound asleep. Did you have a safe trip? He mumbles. Yes, dear, I did. I got a standing ovation and sold a box of books. No, I've never told my husband about Jabir. He's right enough of the time. I'll just keep this little adventure to myself. So the point of the story is that sometimes life throws you in situations where you just have to roll with it. Don't take it too seriously. And for gosh sakes, learn how to change a flat